Onslaught is the brand new horde mode in Destiny 2, and it's unlike anything we've seen before. It gets harder the longer you survive, and it drops some of the best weapons in the game. But in order to effectively defend yourself for 50 waves, you'll need a great build specialized for this activity. So in this video, I'll go over the best builds that make Onslaught easy. I'm Marshix, and first up is what I've been using the most, and I've used it multiple times to reach wave 50 with random blueberries. Phoenix Protocol. This exotic returns up to 50% super energy when you get kills inside your Well of Radiance. Only a handful of kills will get you back up to 50%, meaning you can get your super back very quickly. Well of Radiance is obviously really powerful in this, since you can keep your whole team safe inside of it, and you'll have an easier time clearing out anything thrown your way. Whether it be a horde of captains, 10 tormentors, an 80-foot brig, or Oppenheimer's wet dream. Now we're pairing this exotic with Sunshot. This hand cannon is one of the best for ad clear. 1 or 2 shots and you'll wipe out a whole group of enemies. Between this and Phoenix Protocol, you'll get half your super back in about 3 seconds. Then you just need to continue getting kills and picking up orbs of power from your teammates to get the other half of your super, usually within a minute or 2. And if multiple people on your team are using this build, you can chain your wells back to back and never die. By the time your well is out, your teammate will definitely have theirs, and by the time that goes down, you'll definitely have yours. In other words, you can play on easy mode. Besides that, aspects and fragments are completely up to you, but here's what I used in my build. Also, useful tip regardless of the build, keep a Leviathan's Breath on standby. This is one of the best heavy weapons to deal with tormentors because it deals precision damage and staggers them in place for a couple seconds, which is very helpful whenever you inevitably have to deal with a tormentor. Or 10. The next build is a very similar one to the first one, but for hunters. Orpheus Rig. This will make it so you can get up to half your super back as enemies enter your tether, specifically single shot tether. Killing those enemies will create a ton of orbs for your teammates, helping them chain supers and create more orbs for you. So just like before, this exotic will give you half your super back almost instantly, and hopefully your teammates will generate enough orbs to get your tether back in only a few seconds. And I'm continuing to use Sunshot because it's so good for ad clear, especially against tethered enemies. So every time you see a large wave grouped up, or every time you enter a boss room, just pop your tether and they'll all die in a matter of seconds. And here's the rest of the build. Nothing too crazy since the majority of the value comes from Orpheus and your tether. And if you're wondering why I'm not going in depth into every single part of the build, it's because it's just not necessary. Going invisible with my dodge doesn't affect the core of the build, so I don't need to waste everyone's time explaining that. And for the most part, you can fill in the remaining mods and fragments with whatever you're most comfortable with. This next build will definitely surprise you. But first, this video is sponsored by HelloFresh. You probably eat food, and you probably like when that food tastes good. Well, with HelloFresh, you can get delicious food that's easy to make and great for you. Order online and pick all your favorite meals. Then in less than a week, you'll receive a box with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients to make your food, alongside simple, step-by-step recipes to walk you through the entire process. So you can do this even if you have zero cooking experience like me. And since everything comes straight to you, there's no need to go to the store and no need to waste money on takeout. And they have a large variety of meals to choose from, with over 45 recipes every week and tons of other add-ons if you see something you like. There's always something for everyone. And right now, HelloFresh is offering a huge deal. Click the link in the description or use my code MARSHIXAPR16 and get 16 free meals plus free dessert for life while your subscription's active. Who doesn't love free food? Check it out, I love it, my friends love it, and I know you will too. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. You won't believe this, but Banner of War Strand Titans are actually good in Onslaught. I know, crazy! Banner of War is an aspect that increases your melee damage, and heals you periodically just by getting 1 melee kill. Pair this with more melee buffs like Synthoceps and a 1-2 punch shotgun, and you'll be able to destroy most things in Onslaught with a single punch. I also like to run this with Into the Fray for an easy source of woven mail, and increased melee regen while you have woven mail, Thread of Warding for more woven mail, and Thread of Fury for melee energy each time you throw a tangle, which, reminder, gives you woven mail. So all of this ensures you get your melee back quickly and never die thanks to the damage reduction from woven mail. You can melt everything with your punches and easily keep yourself alive, as well as anyone else inside your green circle. And here's the rest of the build if you're curious. Up next is a way to create infinite heavy ammo. Cenotaph Mask allows you to create heavy ammo for your team. Just tag a yellow bar with a trace rifle and they'll become marked. When your teammates kill the marked target, they get heavy ammo and you get special ammo, which you can use to refill your trace rifle. Now, most people see Cenotaph and think of Divinity. That is a strong combo, but we aren't using that. Any trace rifle can create heavy ammo for your team, including legendary trace rifles. So you don't have to sacrifice your exotic slot to get heavy for your team. You will be sacrificing a little bit of your killing potential since you don't have something like a fusion rifle, but you will drastically improve your teammates' killing potential since they have all the heavy ammo in the world. They can pretty much main a machine gun or a grenade launcher or heck, even a rocket launcher. Not to mention, you're still running Well of Radiance to keep everyone alive, and you still have your exotic slot for something like Sunshot or a heavy weapon like Gallowhorn or Thunderlord or whatever you want. The enemy density in Onslaught is much higher than other activities, so ad clear is more important than ever. That being said, we can't leave off one of the best ad clearing builds in the game. Combination Blow. Kills with this melee instantly refill your dodge and give you a stack of Combination Blow. Each stack increases the damage of your melee, stacking up to 3 times. If you pair this with Gambler's Dodge, you'll be able to create a loop where you melee to get your dodge, then dodge to get your melee, and then repeat. But it doesn't stop there. You'll want to use the Lethal Current aspect to jolt enemies with your Combination Blow punches. And this is very powerful, able to wipe out groups of enemies in a single punch. And those that don't die will be blinded by your follow-up punch, which stuns unstoppable champions. And the jolt effect from your initial melee will stun overload champions. For the fragments, you'll definitely want Spark of Resistance to reduce the damage you take from enemies within melee range, Spark of Feedback to further increase the damage of your Combination Blow melees, Spark of Ions to create ionic traces with each punch, and Spark of Amplitude for another easy way to generate orbs of power. And of course, Liar's Handshake to increase the damage of your follow-up punches and to heal you at the same time. And we also have a 1-2 punch shotgun for even more damage. Nothing will survive from your punches. I've not seen One Punch Man, but I imagine it's something like this. This next build is simple but very effective. Dranger's Slash makes your barricade shoot out a ripple in reality that suspends anything it touches. But if you're wearing a Buoyant Leap, this goes from 1 ripple to 3. Making it a lot more effective against large groups of enemies like the ones in Onslaught. So we're going all in on suspend effects to make everything we hit just hover there, doing nothing. Shackle Grenade for more suspend effects, Thread of Continuity for a longer duration of suspend effects, and Thread of Mind to gain class ability energy whenever you kill a suspended target. This is the main way we're feeding a Buoyant Leap. We also want Focusing Strike to get class ability energy from melee damage, Insulation for class ability energy by picking up Orbs of Power, and Utility Kickstart for, you guessed it, more class ability energy. You should never really have a hard time getting your barricade back. Long story short, suspend things, kill them. Stasis Warlocks have access to the Bleak Watcher aspect. This allows you to convert your grenades into stasis turrets that shoot at enemies, slowing and freezing them in the process. So we're going to double down on these turrets by doubling the amount of turrets. Osmiomancy Gloves make it so you can hold 2 Cold Snap grenades, and these can be converted into Bleak Watcher turrets, so you can throw down 2 at a time. Just give them a few seconds and everything will become frozen. Then we're using Ice Flare Bolts to chain freeze anything nearby that hasn't already been frozen. This makes the build way more consistent. Now, how are we getting our grenades back quickly? Well, you want a weapon with Demolitionist to get grenade energy on kills, as well as Whisper of Shards to get grenade energy by shattering stasis crystals, Whisper of Torment to get grenade energy each time you take damage, which is all the time in Onslaught, Whisper of Fissures to increase the size and damage of the burst when you shatter enemies, and Whisper of Rending so you can shatter everything with your primary weapon. Also, it helps to have Grenade Kickstart to refund energy by consuming armor charges. And something a lot of you probably didn't realize is that Bolstering Detonation and Momentum Transfer actually work with Bleak Watcher turrets. Every time these turrets deal damage, it will give you a small chunk of grenade and rift energy. It's on a small cooldown, like 7 seconds, so not every shot procs it, but each turret will activate it multiple times, and that starts to add up. So with this build, you should be able to throw down at least 1 or 2 turrets at the beginning of each wave, and that will do wonders for controlling the battlefield. The ADU won't take damage if nothing ever gets close to it. Tormentors spawn randomly throughout Onslaught, and they are 100% the toughest enemies to deal with. But this next build is designed to counter them, as well as champions and any other big bosses that might spawn. Celestial Nighthawk. This turns your Golden Gun into a single shot that deals way more damage. This will insta-kill all champions, at least in normal mode, and it will take a huge chunk of everything else. First thing to do is make sure you have Marksman Golden Gun so you can actually deal precision damage. And that's pretty much it. The rest of my build is set up to work with Polaris Lance. Ember of Ashes to apply more Scorch with the perfect 5th shot from Polaris. Ember of Char to spread more Scorch each time I ignite something with Polaris. Ember of Eruption to make those ignitions a lot bigger. And the usual combo of Ember of Searing to create fire sprites, and Ember of Mercy to heal from those fire sprites. And I also tried Bad Juju in hopes of being able to get supers about every 30 seconds, but Polaris Lance and Sunshot feel too good to not use. And the Titan version of this build revolves around Pyrogale Gauntlets. This is essentially Celestial Tighthawk. This will turn your Burning Maul into one big slam that creates fire tornadoes. This makes it great for burst damage against those large targets, and can be used to nuke a spawn location too. Pyrogale also alters your Consecration Slam to make these Cyclones aflame too, which is great for nuking big groups of enemies and trapping doorways. The aspects I'm using are Consecration because of Pyrogale, and Soul Invictus to create sunspots that burn anything that enters, as well as healing me and my teammates whenever we enter. Everything else is about becoming radiant and staying alive, so we have Ember of Torches, Ember of Searing, Ember of Mercy, and Ember of Solace. And here's the rest of the build. Still using Sunshot because why would I use anything else? Up next is a way to set fire to the world. Sunbracers gives you 5 solar grenades each time you get a powered melee kill. These grenades do a great job of spawn killing enemies and blocking off hallways. Everything will just run into your grenades and die instantly. And we're going to enhance these grenades with Touch of Flame. This aspect makes your solar grenades shoot out lava blobs that deal additional damage to enemies. And the other aspect is Heat Rises. This makes it so you get melee energy each time you kill something while you're in the air. This is perfect since we want to get lots of melee kills to activate Sunbracers, then we can hover in the air while we throw the grenades, and by the time everything's dead, you'll already have your melee back. That's all you really need for the build, but if you want to take it a step further, you can throw on Ember of Ashes to apply more Scorch stacks with your grenades, Ember of Resolve to heal from each grenade kill, and the usual Ember of Searing and Ember of Mercy combo to create fire sprites that heal you. Also, Ember of Searing does give you melee energy from your grenade kills. So between this and Heat Rises, you basically only need like 3 or 4 kills with your grenades to keep the cycle going. You will never die, have infinite grenades, and have infinite melees. But that's nothing compared to Necrotic Grips. These gauntlets make it so you apply poison with your melees. Then when those enemies die, they will spread that poison to other nearby enemies. This is obviously great for ad clearing, but this build gets a lot crazier. If you pair this with a weapon of sorrow like Thorn or Osteostriga, the poison will spread from your weapon kills too. So as you can see, every kill with Thorn is creating that poison cloud and destroying everything around it. Thorn is definitely my favorite weapon of the bunch for Onslaught, since it can be strong at all ranges. Sometimes you want to get up in their face while you're camping their spawns, and other times you need to stay close to the point and take them out from far away. And Thorn is the best one at doing that. But this poison combo isn't where the build stops. We're also using a Strand subclass with Mindspun Evocation. This makes it so we can consume our Shackle Grenade to gain Weaver's Trance for 25 seconds. While we have this, anything we kill, including the poison kills, will create a burst that suspends everything around it. So you can start a wave by consuming your grenade, get a couple kills on red bars, then everything gets poisoned and suspended, and by the time everything is settled, most of the red bars are already dead, and you just have to deal with the suspended yellow bars. Now for the fragments, we have Thread of Continuity to make enemies stay suspended for longer, Thread of Generation to have a constant source of grenade energy so we can keep our Weaver's Trance up as much as possible, and the other things are for survivability with Woven Mail, and ways to create tangles that can be used with the Wanderer to suspend things when we don't have Weaver's Trance. And that's pretty much it. Poison things, kill things, suspend things, win. Now that you have these awesome builds, you'll need them to have good stats. So check out this video to see how I got some of the best stats in all of my builds and how you can too. Thanks for watching, I'm Marshix, and I'll see you next time.